We have some major news on the Houston Texans that they're linked to another player on the offensive line who is a Super Bowl champion. Now, the offensive line has been a target for a long time, and I actually don't believe that it's as significant as a need as people are making it out to be. With all of these articles, it's basically them saying, oh, the Texans need a big move at offensive line. They lost Laremy Tunsil. There's a big hole. Realistically, they did go out and get veterans, so there's not a likelihood that they may go out and get this player, but they definitely need some depth in the draft, so I'm not going to say they definitely don't need the position. But if you're new to the channel, we're about 100 subs away from a great milestone on the channel, 1,000 subscribers. The community's been awesome. The comments have been flowing. The views have been going. The whole progress of Texans Digest has been growing, and I can't thank you guys enough for watching these videos. But let's jump into it today with Joe Noteboom, who is still left unsigned. Former Los Angeles Ram. He's been an absolute monster. I do love him. He only played in 4 games last season, so that's kind of the big question mark as to why he's unsigned. There's a lot of other tackles that they're talking about, maybe Tyron Smith, but realistically, we've talked about on this channel how we need a tackle, right? But we don't necessarily over the top, we must get a tackle. Like, yes, we want a tackle in the first 2-3 rounds. I would agree. But the fact that all these articles are talking about that the Texans need a tackle, they need a tackle. Yes, why would they sign a tackle, though? Somebody who's 29 years old, coming off an injury, there's no point in that. The Texans have already got Trent Brown, Cam Robinson. Yes, they're not the long-term answers, but you can at least get those guys for 1 year. And you look at right tackle, maybe you get Noteboom as a backup to Trent Brown. I don't think Trent Brown plays for long, but Blake Fisher can't start this season. I don't think Blake Fisher is in the role to be a second-year starter and just throw him into the play after what happened last year. He was a little iffy. So it's interesting to me because these articles are just like, I don't believe that the Texans are going to do beneficial from signing a tackle, even if it was Brandon Sheriff, the guy we talked about last time, or Joe Noteboom. And I'll be honest, I love Noteboom. He's 29 years old. He's coming off an ankle injury last year, so that's not the best thing to look forward to. If you look at his PFF grade, it definitely wasn't good. But keep in mind, again, only 220 snaps, 4 games played, 2 sacks. So honestly, I like what the Texans did. Yes, it's a little bit low risk signing a player with an ankle injury in terms of if you can get him for cheap. I don't know if he's going to want an expensive contract, but looking at this signing, it's a little bit of a head scratcher to me just because if they were to do it, it would be because they don't get anybody that they like in the draft. And you sign a guy who's 29 who has a couple potential years left in him. He was mentored by Andrew Whitworth, so that's a plus. But looking at the future for the Texans, realistically, it comes down to the draft and what can you get for all of these players. Looking at the guard market, we talked about Brandon Sheriff. Tevin Jenkins is still there. Shaq Mason, we just cut him. Noteboom, Nate Herbig. I wanted Herbig. I thought that would be a good signing, get a guard piece. But the Texans are looking to go in the draft. And their first 3 picks, they have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. 2 of those positions will be tackle, guard, and I wouldn't be surprised if the first 3 out of the 4 wide receiver, tackle, guard, running back. I think all 4 of those positions should be addressed within the first 3 rounds. But looking what Nick Caserio wants to do, it's hard to judge what this offense is going to want to do, considering Nick Caley, this is his first year with the team. We don't know the system they want to run. Are they going to be a pass-first offense? Are they going to be a run-first offense? That's the question mark. Now, it's a good thing to keep in mind that Noteboom was with the team last year. I know he only played 4 games, but he's familiar to Nick Caley, knows that system. Are they going to want to run it? Like, a lot of question marks here as to, is this the best move for the Texans? I would say, overall, there's not any reason to go after a tackle, especially right before the draft. And all these articles, this is another article on Sports Illustrated basically coming out. Again, maybe just over a week before the draft. Do you think the Texans are really focused on signing a tackle at this moment in time? No, they're focused on getting the best at the position that they can in the NFL draft, whether that's going after the tackle on Ohio State in Josh Simmons, or if it's the guard on Ohio State in the one player that we all talked about and love, so in Donovan Jackson. So again, it's all about, who do you want to get? Gray Zabel. Is Kellen Banks going to be there? I don't believe so, but you have to think about those possibilities. And as much as I want the Texans to go with DeMeco, have that connection for your quarterback and wide receiver, it's honestly pretty unknown for what the Texans are going to do in the first round. Not that I don't see them trading up, but there's still so many possibilities left on the market. And worst case scenario, if the Texans do not get a tackle or guard that they want in the first 3-4 picks, they can go out and sign Joe Noteboom. So you have that luxury with the free agency market. No, not a lot of likely players to be signed at this point in time, not just with the Texans, but with any team, because most people are preparing for the NFL draft. It's Monday. We're coming up on a week before the NFL draft this Thursday. So the research is coming in. Everyone's looking at it. It's just the little details now, the character traits, do you want to pull a trigger on a wide receiver first? You're going to have to go through a lot of drafts. But overall, the Texans need a lot of offense. And two of those positions, again, we talked about it, are going to be tackle and guard. It's just a matter of what can you afford to get and what can you afford to lose. So I would say first 2 picks should at least be a tackle and a wide receiver. You cannot go into this year with just Christian Kirk and Nico Collins. You need somebody for the future. The Texans did just meet with Matthew Golden. If you want me to make a separate video on that. I just feel like with all of the visits, it's kind of hard to just talk about every single person that has visited with the team. Instead, I'd rather do Joe Noteboom. I know it's kind of the most theatrical play of all time because it's not likely until after the draft, until we see what we're working with in terms of the players that the Texans have gotten. But most of the time, everything that's hyped up for the NFL draft, it's not likely to happen. So whether it's every analyst saying the Texans need to take a tackle first round, I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Caserio is the only GM that's like, Matthew Golden's sitting right there. Let's go ahead and pull the trigger on a wide receiver because we don't know how long Christian Kirk is going to be able to stay healthy for. It was more of a plug and play for right now because we don't have Tank Dell for this season and we need a slot receiver. So it's almost inevitable that the Texans are going to draft a number 2, whether that's second round in, you have a lot of guys. You have Royals, Harris, even if it's from Oregon, you have Tez Johnson, Jaden Higgins, Emeka Buka. I mean, there's so many different options. Even Luther Burden, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but the Texans can easily go after a bigger name in the first 2-3 rounds as a wide receiver and then address the offensive tackle. That's the biggest thing. I think the first 2 picks need to be offensive tackle and wide receiver because there's not a list to replenish all of those guys, and you most likely going to have to trade up in the second round if you want to get a viable tackle or wide receiver for that matter. Hey, excuse me, English is difficult today. But there's a few guards and tackles you can get in the second, third round, but with the Texans having 4 picks, two picks in the third round, it is likely that they could trade up in the middle rounds on day 2, which I wouldn't really mind at all. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on not only this signing, but just what do the Texans do in the draft? We've been playing out scenarios. My favorite one is somebody who commented that the Texans would trade back with the Saints and we would potentially get Chris Olave. So that was my favorite one in terms of the hypotheticals. Love doing that. Overall, though, the Texans kind of need a lot, right? We talked about tackle, guard, wide receiver, running back, even a tight end to kind of fill the depth with Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. Brevin Jordan. I know the tight end room is good, but how much longer does Dalton Schultz have left in the tank? He's getting paid $15 million in the cap hit. That's a question mark. You have defensive tackle. That's not the biggest holes, but Sheldon Rankins, again, how much time does he have left? It's a lot of let's replenish the team with young talent, and that's the thing with signing 2 veteran presences at blindside and right tackle, left and right, with Cam Robinson and Trent Brown. You have 2 veterans that can coach up Blake Fisher or whoever you draft at left tackle, whoever you draft at guard, Laken Tomlinson and Titus Howard, both good veterans. Tomlinson, 33 years old. He can fill the void. Those guys can step in middle of the season, and Nick Caserio has been known to draft some good players on day 2 and day 3, so why not take a sure thing on day 1 in Emeka Buka or say Matthew Golden falls or one of those top receivers, even if you trade up for a Tetero McMillan. I don't even hate that. That 1-2 combo could be pretty nasty with Nico Collins. So a lot to do. I don't believe in all the rumors that the Texans are going to go out and just need an offensive tackle so badly. Yes, they need a tackle, but it's almost, why would you go out and sign somebody when you have the draft with all these young studs that could be very good for the future of the team. Kelvin Banks, who knows if he slips past the middle of the rounds, because he's one of the most underrated tackles that are slipping to the middle rounds, who's probably a top pick. You have Will Campbell, you have Membu from Missouri, so there's a lot of tackles in this draft that you gotta love, but it's picking the right one. You don't want to just take a tackle because you want to take a tackle, and that's what happened with Kenyon Green. The Texans needed a guard. They pulled the trigger on a round 2 grade, and he was round 2 for a reason. Texas A&M, taking 15th overall. Zion Johnson goes to the Chargers. He turns out to be a stud. And then the second round pick, who you just traded to the Eagles, is now a bust. So that was the only bad pick in the Deshaun Watson era of all the picks that the Texans got. But don't make that same mistake of going out and getting a position of need just because you need a tackle or a guard. So draft a wide receiver if you want. If you love Emeka Egbuka, don't pass up on him. Don't pass up on a Matthew Golden. But that's just the whole process of the draft, is figuring out what is the best option, who do you love, who can you take a chance on, and then in the middle rounds, can you scout out the guys that you love and pinpoint who they are? I don't even care if I've never heard of them. If you can do your scouting correctly and know the players that you're getting for the right value, that's all you can ask for. So I know it was a little bit of a ramble, but thank you everyone so much for watching. Joseph Noteboom, the rumors of him signing with Houston because they need desperately a offensive tackle. I mean, they signed their veterans for the future, so they're likely to go tackle and guard in the draft to get younger, to get quicker. And you need a wide receiver, you need a running back, you need a tight end, you need a lot of things. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on all the Texans news. The draft is coming up quick, and we'll have some more content soon. Hit that subscribe button once again if you're new. 88% of you are not subscribed. Would really appreciate any support on the channel. Everyone's been killing it. You guys have been awesome. It's been Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest, signing off.